Man, this dude's so fine.
Wait,
Tony Gonzalez.
What does fine have to, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm sorry. You got to put it out there. Tony Gonzalez.
What's his name?
Tony Gonzalez. It should be ooh la la.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Spikes and Heels, Football for Beginners Tutorials. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Gwen.
And on today's show, we are going to break down the player positions on the field, starting with the offense, the side of the ball where they have the ball and they're trying to score points. So we're going to break down each of the positions and explain what they are. And we're going to show you some famous people that you may have heard of who play each of these positions. So what position are we going to start with?
Let's start with the captain on the field on offense. This position is the quarterback. He's responsible for distributing the ball to either a running back, fullback, or throwing the ball to a wide receiver or tight end. This person makes the play. He gets the signal from the coach. Sometimes they will have a mic on inside their helmet so they can be talking. You will see the coach cover his face a lot with something to block somebody reading his lips, but he's talking to the quarterback through a mic in his head.
And so let's show you some famous positions, some famous players who you know who played the quarterback position before or who may be still playing now.
So the most famous quarterback of all time probably is Tom Brady. He has the most Super Bowl victories of any quarterback in history, in NFL history.
Yep. We also have Aaron Rodgers, discount double check. You see him on the insurance commercials on TV. Even if you don't know who he is on the field, he plays for the Green Bay Packers, but you may have seen him on commercials on TV.
And then you have Patrick Mahomes. He is like the baby of the bunch because he did something that's kind of like an anomaly. He won a Super Bowl in his second year, but not too many quarterbacks get to the top level in the NFL that fast. So he's very popular.
Okay, and another name you may or may not have heard of is Doug Williams. Doug Williams was the first African-American winning Super Bowl quarterback in NFL history. He happened to have played for our favorite team, the Washington football team, the Washington Redskins back then. And so Doug Williams is a name you may have heard of.
And lastly, you have my favorite, I mean, this kid is phenomenal, and that is Lamar Jackson. I wish we had the wherewithal to get this kid. He is incredible. I'm ready to give him the purple S on his chest because he can do it all. He brings a lot of energy and excitement to the game.
Okay, so those are 5 quarterbacks you may have heard of.
So next, Sabrina, let's do the running backs.
Okay.
What is a running back, Sabrina?
Oh, a running back is very simple. They're usually the person that gets handed the ball to them and they run with it. So it's very simple. They're usually shorter in stature, usually more compact, more stocky, and they're fast.
And you will know where they are because they're usually behind the quarterback.
Typically so. Yes, that's right. And so that's what a running back is. And so we're going to tell you some famous running backs now. Barry Sanders is one of them. He played for the Detroit Lions, Hall of Fame running back, respected even till today. And this is a picture of Barry.
Next, you have Walter Payton. Walter Payton was a phenomenal running back. Yeah. Walter Payton was so influential in the NFL that they even named an award after him. It's called the Walter Payton Humanitarian Award. So the NFL selects one player off of each team, 32 players, and then they have a ceremony, and then they pick the Walter Payton Player of the Year.
Yeah. So good old Walter Payton, otherwise known as Sweetness. Yeah. And then next, I hate to say this.
I swear, don't even bring him up, but you got to. Good Lord.
I got to bring him up. He's a cool dude. Emmitt Smith played for the Dallas Cowboys. We hated to see him coming.
But he ran over top of us every chance he got.
Yeah, Emmitt was a great running back, Hall of Famer as well. But Emmitt was a great running back.
Don't he still hold the title for most yards on a running back?
For all the whole entire league?
Yes.
You have to look that up, people.
I'm doing it right now. Emmitt Smith, yes, 18,355 yards.
I didn't know Emmitt still held that record. I see
Still
you
have the
kind of
record.
mentioned the man.
Yes.
Even though he wore the wrong
That's
uniform,
real.
he was a great player.
He was, and he's actually a cool dude.
Yeah. Next up, we have Mr. John Riggins, who was well renowned in Washington football history.
Oh, thank you.
Otherwise known as the Diesel. He was instrumental in our football championship against the Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
Right? Against the Miami Dolphins. Infamous not just here, but around the league as well. Hall of Famer.
Now we come to the most infamous running back of all time, Mr. Orenthal James Simpson, better known as O.J. Simpson. He played with the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers in the 70s. He won the Heisman, he won MVP a couple of years, and he won Player of the Year. But unfortunately, he's more famous for his off-the-field antics and stuff rather than his running back. The younger generation, you probably didn't know he was so famous and he was such a great running back because all the other stuff in the 90s took precedent over him.
Yes.
So this is why I called him the most infamous. You know him for two reasons. He played football in the trials.
And there you have it. Those are the running backs, even though there are so many more we could have named, but those are ones you've probably heard of.
Got it. So now, ladies and gents, we're going to discuss wide receivers. And I personally want Sabrina to take this whole segment because this is her position. Take it away, Beanie.
All right. So what is a wide receiver? Simply put, a wide receiver is the one that catches the ball when the quarterback throws it to him and then he runs. So some famous wide receivers in NFL history, and there are many, many, many. But I'm going to start with who I mentioned in a previous episode as my greatest of all time, my GOAT, Mr. Jerry Rice. He has today still standing NFL records for his play, still very respected and very known around the league, Mr. Jerry Rice. You have to have heard of him. And if you haven't, now you have. Up next is Mr. Randy Moss. He played with the Minnesota Vikings for many, many years. He's now an analyst on Fox, I believe he is. You can see him on Fox on Sundays. And Randy is very opinionated. He's always been himself. He was always a playmaker. And he is also a Hall of Famer. So Randy Moss is another name that you may have heard of. Next up is Mr. Larry Fitzgerald. I mentioned him recently in one of our other shows. He is still playing today. He is, in our opinion, a future Hall of Famer. Most likely a first or second ballot, meaning he'll get it on his first or second try. He is a playmaker for the Arizona Cardinals. He is an all-the-time target on their offense. And he's a very, by all accounts, a stand-up guy. He's a good guy, humanitarian, always helping. And again, with the Arizona Cardinals, still playing today, Mr. Larry Fitzgerald. We hope he gets a ring, but we don't know if that's going to happen. Next up, we have Mr. Art Monk, who is not as famous, maybe, as the other ones, but in the NFC East division, and especially in Washington, he's very well known. He was a Washington Redskin, and he was a part of a group of players, wide receivers, called the Posse. The Fun Bunch, the Posse. And the Posse was made of Art Monk, Ricky Sanders, and Gary Clark. But Art Monk, to me, was the most famous of the three, the tallest of the three, too. So Mr. Art Monk, I had to mention him. And finally, Gwen, I got to give this one to you. Antonio Brown.
Come on now.
We talked about him, didn't we? Antonio Brown.
He is such an exceptional player. He started off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a one-day stint with the Patriots, a 1 week stint with the Raiders, and now he's with Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. But I've seen him play. I went to 2 Steeler games, and I promise you, it was worth every penny. Yeah. When he's on, he's on. Mm-hmm. So kudos to AB.
Mr. Antonio Brown, who we've mentioned before. There are many, many, many wide receivers. There are certain positions where they're overstacked, where there are so many people who play that position. Wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, who we've talked about. Now we're going to get into some more specialty positions on offense.
Correct. Next, Sabrina, let's discuss the tight end. What is the tight end?
So a tight end is like a wide receiver. You can throw the ball to him and he'll catch it. But tight ends also have blocking duties as well. So sometimes they'll line up along those line of guys that you see line up and help out with the blocking to protect the quarterback or the running back or whatever. So
tight ends are usually bigger than wide receivers. They're usually big, tall, burly. Like how can that tight end be so big and run that fast? You will see them because they stand out.
Yeah, so they catch, but they also help with blocking sometimes as well.
So let's start off with Rob Gronkowski. I have a hard time pronouncing his name, but we call him Gronk for short.
Mm-hmm.
He won many Super Bowls in New England with Tom Brady. You'll see him on TV commercials. He's very popular, and he's a nice guy.
Yeah, and he's with Tom. He retired actually.
He came back, and now he's with Tom in Tampa Bay. Yeah. Then next you have, man, this dude's so fine.
What does fine have to, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm sorry. You got to put it out there. Tony Gonzalez.
What's his name?
Tony Gonzalez. It should be ooh la la. He's a retired tight end from the Atlanta Falcons. Super cool dude. Easy on the eyes, light on the feet. Love him when he used to play. I miss him, but now
he's also an analyst too, right?
Yes, because I always man.
You're gonna have all the viewers going out to now look at Tony Gonzalez.
Check him out.
But make sure you come back and watch the rest of this.
Exactly. So you taking it away, Sabrina. I'm flustered. Name another tight end.
Oh Lord. So next up, we have another tight end who actually still plays, and that's Mr. Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs.
That dude is beast mode.
Yes, so Travis Kelce, Super Bowl winning, still playing, still great, and many regard him as the best in the league at this time, at his position.
Yes. Next, ladies and gents, we have Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe played with the Denver Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens. Mm-hmm. Shannon has his own show with Skip Bayless on the cable channel. Mm-hmm. Shannon was really instrumental. He was one of the first few huge, super tall tight ends.
Yeah.
Like, at first, tight ends didn't have that huge statue, but when Shannon came, he added a different element. So then teams started going for a taller athlete. You know, so he was over 6 feet. I know he's a Hall of Famer. He was inducted to the Hall of Fame. And I just love him. Great smile, very charismatic, but man, could he catch the ball?
Very, very opinionated and
extremely.
Yeah, and I think he was probably one of the first best known tight ends that there was. Yes. Yeah, so Shannon Sharpe.
He made tight end look good.
We're gonna go to the dark side and say Mr. Jason Witten. He has been playing for a long time. I want to say he took a year or so off and then came back. But Jason Witten is going to go down in Cowboys history. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Definitely.
He's been playing forever. I think I'm going to leave my opinion out. He's very well known, Mr. Jason Witten. All right, next up, we're going to go to the offensive line, the big burly guys that protect the quarterback. And we're going to start out with centers. The center is just like it sounds. They're in the center of the long line. They're in the middle. And who are some famous centers that we can think of? And let me just say this, the offensive linemen are usually unsung. They're not as famous as all the other players that we mentioned, but they're so important to keep the quarterback and the running back protected so that they can get through or be protected. So anyway, who are some famous centers?
Marquise Pouncey. He's with the Steelers. He stands out to me. Like Sabrina said, it's hard to grasp because I can't really remember. Mm-hmm. Like these are the two that I know. And Jeff Bostic.
Yes.
Was the center for the Washington Redskins during our heyday.
Yes. Okay. And then we also have Mr. Raleigh McKenzie, who may not, again, be as well known, but in the NFC East. And in Washington, he's very instrumental in our success, Mr. Ronnie McKenzie. And we also have Ethan Albright and Dermonte Dawson. So these are names you may or may not have
I ain't heard
of.
of the last three of them.
You see? And it's a shame sinners don't get there.
No, because they hike the ball and everything, you know, so got it.
Yeah.
Now we have the guards. These are the two positions on the left and the right of the center.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the same role to protect the quarterback. But the guards are notorious for making the holds. They have a special, unique quality of pushing trying to push the defensive lineman out of the way so the running back, fullback can get through. If the quarterback, like Lamar, wants to take off, they create the hole. So name some famous guards, Sabrina, also well-known guards, Sabrina.
Okay, so I got to start with one of the Washington ones, Mr. Russ Grimm.
Oh,
Russ Grimm, a member of the Hogs. The Hogs were the nickname for the Washington Redskins linemen who protected the quarterback. They were big for their time and very well known. They were good at what they did. So Russ Grimm, we have to call you out.
Yes.
Next up, we have Mr. George Stark. Again, may or may not have heard of him because linemen are unsung, but George Stark was also very good at what he did as a guard, and so I had to mention him on this list. Also, Mr. Larry Allen, very, very well known in the league. Had to mention Mr. Allen. Next, I have to mention Mr. Marshall Yanda. He played his entire 13-year career with the Baltimore Ravens. He just finished his career in 2020 before the 2020 season started. And he has been a notable guard in the league. And so I had to mention Mr. Marshall Yanda. Last but not least, I'm going to mention Mr. Mark Schlereth. He played also with the Redskins back when Mr. Mark Rippon was the quarterback. And Mark Schlereth has always been a very known guard. He went also into broadcasting and commentating after his career was over. So I had to mention Mr. Mark Schlereth. There are other guards as well. And again, we wish they got their just due.
So now, Sabrina, let's do the final position on the field. And this position is called the tackle. In my opinion, these are the two most important people to protect the quarterback.
Yes.
And Sabrina will explain why.
Okay. And it's funny how you do that to me. Okay, so the tackles are the guys on the ends of the line. Okay. Imagine you're a quarterback and you're about to throw the ball and you turn your back to throw. You have to have somebody protecting you in the direction that you're not looking in. So the tackles are like the most important people to protect your blind side. Have you heard of that movie, The Blind Side? They're talking about a person that played the tackle position because the quarterback cannot see once he turns to throw. So tackle is a member of the offensive line.
And the left tackle is usually the highest paid position on the line because 75% of quarterbacks are right-handed, so they don't throw to the left. So they need somebody to protect their left.
Yeah, so imagine if you're a quarterback, and this may be backwards because we're the way I'm facing
doing it here, yeah.
My right hand, and if I'm getting ready to throw this way,
you can't.
Now
see.
my left side is blind. I can't see, so the left tackle has to protect my blind side, right?
Yes.
So like Gwen said, that left tackle
is very important. The first person I knew that was a left tackle that was very well known was Dan Dierdorf. He played with the Cardinals in the 70s. He later became a commentator. He was voted Offensive Player of the Year 3 years in a row. So he was very instrumental in protecting the quarterback of the Cardinals at that time.
Yes.
Then you have one of my most recent favorites, Trent Williams.
Yes.
He played with the Redskins for many years, and he was phenomenal. I just missed him so much. I think we would be way further than we are now had he stayed with us. But things happen. You move on. I digress.
Yeah. And next up, we have Mr. Jonathan Ogden, who played his entire career with the Baltimore Ravens. He retired in 2008, but he's still very well known, very respected, and I believe he is an NFL Hall of Famer now, Mr. Jonathan Ogden. Next up, we have Mr. Orlando Pace, who played most of his career with the St. Louis Rams. That's when they were in St. Louis. And he was also inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016, Orlando Pace.
And lastly, we have one of my favorites of all time, Joe Jacoby. He played his entire career with the Washington Redskins. He's a three-time Super Bowl champion.
Yes, he is.
And he was just a phenomenal guy.
And he was a member of what group of people?
The Hawks.
The Hawks. Okay.
So with that, ladies and gents, you have all the positions on the offensive side of the ball. Thank you for joining us. Hope you learned something new. I hope it was fun for you. And we look forward to doing defensive positions next week.
That's what I was going to say. Next week, we're going to do defense. So we're going to keep this going. And if you have any questions about the offensive player positions, type it in the comments and we'll be sure to mention them and answer them next week. So thank you. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Gwen.
And
Stay safe.
See you next time.
Stay safe. Love someone.